consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission: to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
All right. Hello out there in podcast land. This is Tim C. Starr. I'm your host for this particular voyage into the universe between your ears. I am flying solo today. My co-host could not make it, although it's possible he may show up in the middle of things. But Gabby's not with us, so we're just going to soldier on. My guest today is a friend of mine who is a lot of fun to talk to. So I'm looking forward to this. Her name is Laura Petersen. She's a tall math and psychology teacher turned podcasting entrepreneur, persuasive writing expert, Amazon bestselling author, international speaker, and the #1 authority for turning podcasters into author experts to grow their show, brand, and business.
Yes.
Didn't stumble too much over that. Welcome, Laura. Thank you for being here.
No, great job. Thank you for having me.
World traveler, you. I was on your blog a little while ago. I didn't realize you had. I knew you were here and there. No idea you've been so many places.
I know. I'm actually
literally a world traveler.
Just still getting over jet lag a little bit from Italy. I was there for 2 weeks, and I think I've been to 41 countries now.
Crazy.
Yeah, I love travel.
Traveling is fun, and I want to talk. Actually, maybe we can start there.
Sure.
One of the goals of the show is to, with each episode, to try to give the audience something that they might be able to use in their own lives to improve their mindset around things and just to make their lives a little better in some way.
Yeah.
And I think travel is one of the things that is, even if it's not international travel, but traveling, getting outside of your local neighborhood, it can be really, really valuable in expanding your perspectives and allowing you to see that other people see the world differently. Mm-hmm. And maybe you can start questioning your own viewpoints on certain things and find out that, maybe there's something that works better for you than what you currently believe now.
Absolutely.
And you've got a lot more experience in this than I have. I've been to Peru a couple of different times.
Oh, nice.
But you've been 41 different places. So expand on that a little bit and maybe talk about I have to believe that there's similarities in certain cultures and there's overlaps in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
We're all people, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, that is one thing that I have definitely noticed in traveling is that we are more similar than we are different. We all put up arbitrary boundaries around this is this country and now you're exiting this country, you're going to a different country. But if you look at it, from the outer space, there are no lines breaking up countries. We definitely separate ourselves by skin tone, which if you think about it really makes no sense because we're so genetically alike that one difference is negligible. We separate ourselves by religious beliefs, by cultural practices, so many things that we separate ourselves by, yet we're actually very, very similar, I would say, overall. I think that most people are not out to hurt you. They're just living their normal lives. And if you ask them for help, they're more than willing to help you. They go out of their way. So I've experienced a lot of kindness and helpfulness all over the world, even if there was a language barrier or, we were just coming from completely different worlds. But there are definitely differences, just like in cultural practices and things that I think are kind of fun to experience firsthand and then analyze, hey, is this something that maybe I could take home with me and implement into my new life or into my community? So we could talk about some of those things.
Yeah. If you got something that pops in your head right up front, go for it.
I have two things that pop into my mind. And they're funny because I actually was just talking about one of them for sure when I was in Italy with some of my girlfriends. I was on a all women's vegan retreat on the Amalfi Coast in Italy. So I'll bring up the first one, which is like,
it sounded fun in the beginning. All women.
Well,
vegan,
this topic is funny. I think it's funny. So, and it's a little risque. Hopefully your listeners will not blush.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you about the episode we had last week. Yeah.
Ooh, I'll have to listen to that.
Oh, yeah.
So so to give you background too, before I reveal this topic. So I grew up in Orange County, California. I live in San Diego now. And although I am from Southern California and I live there now, I've lived in Germany. I've lived in with host families in Mexico and Costa Rica. I've done a lot of traveling. So I haven't only stayed in Southern California my whole life, obviously. But I grew up in not a religious household, but a very conservative one, even still. So we had conservative values and morals, and I think America in general is rather conservative when it comes to, let's say, clothing and nakedness. So I remember I lived in Germany for a year during college. It was my junior year of college. So I was 20. I turned 21 while I was there. This is back in 2001 to 2002, to put people in context and space and time. And I remember there was this little lake just outside of our town. I lived in a city called Göttingen, which is a good-sized university town, but it's not a town you would go out of your way to necessarily visit if you were just traveling to Germany for the first time. About 2 hours by train from Berlin and Frankfurt. And so just outside of our city, there was a little lake. And so we rode our bike like 30 or 40 minutes to get to this lake. And we set up a little picnic. And I see out of the corner of my eye a decently hefty man running and playing fetch with his dog. And he is completely naked. And I just remember thinking, what in the heck is going on? I had never seen a man naked running in my entire life. Never. So I was just like, this is very odd. And no one was reacting. Other people had their tops off. And I was just like, oh, wow, like I'm in a different world. And so to me, that was shocking. But to them, it was completely normal. And I have more stories of when I was there and even later when I traveled back to Europe where, for example, I was with some friends and they're like, let's go into a sauna. Let's go to a sauna. It was in a building. It wasn't like a public bath, but it was like a sauna in a building. I was like, okay. So I'm putting on my bathing suit and a friend was like, what are you doing? It's like, what do you mean? What am I doing? And he's like, why are you putting on your bathing suit? And I'm like, that's what you wear in the sauna. What are you doing? He's like, no, we are all going naked. That's not appropriate to wear a bathing suit. And I was like, what? So that issue alone, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, Tim. Have you ever been to a place where it was different than we traditionally Americans? I don't think we do that. That's not really a comfort spot.
No, although we do have Black's Beach here in San Diego.
Yeah. But it's like a special beach that you go out of your way to get to. It's not normal.
And I'm not sure it's actually legal.
Right.
I think they just kind of look the other way because it's accepted. But so to answer your question, no, I don't think I've ever, certainly nothing like that. Yeah. But if we don't see pictures, it never happened though. So
yeah. Oh, I have to tell you, I have never participated. I couldn't get past my conditioning.
Well, so what did you?
I wore the bathing suit and I was like, I'm sorry you guys don't like it, but I just can't do it. I just can't. Yeah. So I'm the only one sitting there with a bathing suit. Everyone else is completely naked. I couldn't do it. I don't know.
All right. So and that was the second.
The sauna.
Chronologically, that was the second one.
The sauna story was I was probably around 28 and traveling back, and that was in Sweden. Yeah. And
okay. So what I want to ask then is
sure.
The first one at the lake.
Uh-huh.
Did your friends were going topless or naked or?
No, I think all the friends I was with at the time, they were all American in that situation, and they did not go topless. But I do have another story that's actually pretty entertaining. So back to junior year. So this
is not where I thought we were going to go.
I know, right? And this is not something normally I just talk about, but it seemed very relevant to your question. So in that same year when I was studying abroad, I participated in a trampoline competition.
Okay.
So it was called Springen. Springen in German means to jump. And so there was a university team of competing on the trampoline, and they had a beginning level and an advanced level, and I was in the beginning level, which was great. I did gymnastics back when I was a kid, so I could already do flips and things. But this competition is basically, they had like synchronized jumping. So there were 2 trampolines next to each other, and someone on your team and you would each be on your own trampoline, and you would do a synchronized series of jumps and spins and whatever. And it's like, you had to be as synchronized as possible. So we would do practice, and then you would do a solo one too. So to bring the story to nakedness, I practiced with them for months and months. And then they were like, okay, we're going to have a competition with other schools, and we're going to go to Heidelberg, which is another beautiful city in Germany. And we went to this university campus, and it was inside of their like basketball court gym kind of thing. They had cleared everything out, and they set up all the trampolines, and we had a competition, like officially sanctioned by university competition in the gym. And I remember I looked at the, what's it called? The program, and it said all in German, you know, it's like warm up, competition, award ceremony. And then it says douche party on the program, and I was like, okay. Duschen in German is to wash, to shower. So you say like, ich dusche mich, like I'm washing myself, I'm taking a shower. So douche means to shower, and then party means party. So it's like, what the heck is a shower party? And so I asked all my German friends and, you know, teammates, what is this? What is this? And they were they didn't like really answer me. They were kind of,
evasive.
Yes, evasive. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. You like it. It's fine. And I was just like, what the heck? But I'm like, it's sanctioned by the school, so it can't be anything too crazy. So after the competition, everyone stripped down naked and ran into the bathroom area, the shower area, and they drenched themselves and each other with sect, which is like SEKT, which is kind of like a cheap champagne, like a bubbly kind of cheap alcohol champagne that college students can get easily. And they drenched themselves with it and turned on the showers, and they literally had a completely, everyone, guys and girls, all together naked party in the showers. And I did not participate. I could not. I'm sorry. I just couldn't. I can't, you know, and so many people try to convince me, like, when in Rome, Laura, do as the Romans do, you know, but I just couldn't do it. And so I remember I had to kind of walk through that area to get to the dinner area. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to dinner early. And I just remember this image will never leave my head of a completely naked boy running, jumping, and sliding past me down the hall. I was like, wow. So I get back to my place in Germany, and I go to all my American friends, and I'm like, you are not going to believe what happened this weekend. And they were all aghast and just couldn't believe it. And I told my German friends, like, oh my gosh, does this happen everywhere? And a lot of my German friends are like, oh, I haven't done that. I haven't heard of it, but I'm not shocked. Like, it's not a big deal. Did you do it? And I'm like, no. So anyway, long story short, I've had many occasions to participate in complete nakedness in Europe, and I can't
Passed
say
on everything.
I had to pass. Yeah.
Well, you know, what's interesting is our perspectives on everything, virtually everything, change as we get older.
True.
As we get exposed to new things and different ideas and whatever. And, you know, so by the time you're 50, you may be like, you know, I passed it. We got to go do that.
Right.
You know,
for sure.
you may change. That may be on your bucket list or something.
We'll see.
But all right, so let's. I'm loving the conversation, but let's bring this around to. You know, this came out of the idea that people have different perspectives in different places. And I don't know that the idea of getting a bunch of your friends naked to have a champagne party at your house is
is applicable to everyone.
Yeah, but the idea that you could go somewhere and get exposed to something and then bring that back home, because you see it and you go, you know, this makes perfect sense. Why did we ever think differently about whatever this is? It might be food. It could be
For sure.
clothing. It could be anything. I don't know where I'm going exactly, except that it's
on the nakedness side, I can definitely say that although I didn't change my behavior, it definitely influenced my thinking and making me question, is there anything wrong with being naked? Is it shameful? Is it embarrassing? Is it bad? Which is sort of the words that kind of hover in my mind over it. It's like something that's very private that you never share with anyone except for someone who's like an intimate partner. That's it. And it did make me really reflect on those beliefs. And even though I haven't really changed my behavior, I have definitely opened up my mind and perspective on things because I recognize that this isn't necessarily what everyone believes, because there are other ways of doing it. And something a bit more relatable, I can give another example, is around plastic bags at the grocery store. So just recently now here in San Diego in California, you have to pay if you want to get plastic bags when you're having your groceries bagged or paper, whatever. You have to pay for them. Germany has been doing that since, I'm sure before 2001, but that was the first time I experienced it. When I lived abroad in 2001, you had to pay for bags and everyone brought their own. And I remember as a college student thinking, why the heck are we not doing this in the US? And now here, what is it? 17 years later, I'm sure they started even before 2001. We're 17 plus years behind, I would say, in that perspective of let's reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Well, that's a mindset thing, I think, from, here, you follow the dollars. Right? And I would bet real money that the reason it's taken this long is it's all about money.
For sure.
The lobbyists from the plastic bag industry or whatever, they've got lots of pull, lots of clout in different areas. And so the government officials who have the potential to make the change, they're not motivated to do it because they're getting money over here and this will go away or they're in trouble for that. Yeah,
but that's a great point, that it takes us to travel, us to experience, us to be open, see how other people are doing things better than we are. Just because we're from the United States does not mean we have everything figured out and everything is the best, which I hear a lot from American friends and family. Like, fuck yeah, America. Like, yes, I love this country, but we have not got everything figured out. There are so many other people and perspectives we can take into account. So it's up to us to experience that and then bring it home and be vocal about, we need to make these changes that we've seen been done very, very well in other places. And to add to this grocery situation, there are no shopping carts scattered all over parking lots in Germany either. And why? It's because in order to get your grocery cart, you have to put in a €1 coin. So you put in a €1 coin and it releases it's like lock on the next one, and then you can use it. And so everyone returns their shopping carts because they want their €1 back. That is a simple fix that we could implement here, and that's going to reduce labor costs. It's going to reduce probably like injury to cars, by just getting run into stuff. The loss of.
Well, we do that at airports with the luggage carts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can just transfer that same approach to grocery shopping carts. Yeah.
We need to start a business.
We need to start writing letters to our Congress people.
No, screw that. I want to make money.
There you go. Even better.
We'll license it to cost.
Yeah.
All right. So, we can go anywhere here. And we already went anywhere. I had a thought that took the nakedness an additional step farther, but it really isn't relevant, so I'm going to leave that alone. But
now you have us all intrigued.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. What the hell? So I have a friend who used to have a wife who was I believe she was from Sweden. And he was probably in his 20s or 30s maximum. I'm thinking 20s. And very, very happy. And he was hospitalized for something. And I don't remember what that was for, and it's not relevant really. But he was stuck in a hospital, and his wife came to visit him, and visiting hours, I guess the hours weren't over, but she was leaving, and she left the building and realized, oh, I got to do something. She went back into his room, and her perspective was that a man has to have an orgasm every day.
Oh.
So while he was in the bed, she took care of him. And he's like 40 years later now, he's still just overwhelmed with, because she died in an accident, I think. So he's overwhelmed with losing this woman who has such a different mindset on how to treat a man. And we've had other guests on the show where this is what we talk about. We've been into, and the one that it hasn't aired yet, but she's all about how to give a good hand job. And she's got I'll give her a shameless plug. It's rockstarhandjobs.com. And you can go watch a free video, and this country, our culture is really more than nakedness. We are way hung up on sex,
for sure,
and what's acceptable and what's not between two consenting adults of whatever sex. And oh no, you can't do that to me because that makes me something else, and
right.
All of these things. But in other parts of the world, it's a different animal,
right?
And certain aspects of the society will be affected because certain aspects of our psyches would loosen up if we could just in all kinds of areas, but if we just be a little more accepting of what might actually just be normal, right? Versus the whatever taboos we've learned out of religion or whatever, right? So and it applies to all kinds of other areas outside of sex. That's always fun to talk about, but right, it applies to shopping bags. So
for sure.
So one of the other things that I wanted to make sure that you and I talk about is because this I think is valuable to everybody's mindset. I'm going to make you tell your high school story about the T-shirts.
Okay.
Because the first time I heard this, I was like, whoa, there's a huge lesson right there.
Yeah.
And I was actually, I was a little disappointed that you didn't go into a little more, sort of hammer home that point a little bit more, but I'll do that if you don't want to.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Would you go ahead and tell this story for us? Because this is really valuable.
I definitely appreciate feedback on the story and telling of it to make it even more compelling and really convey the lesson behind it.
Well, so take your time.
Okay,
because I think last time I heard you tell this, you were like, okay, I got to.
It was a fast. Yeah, I was at a presentation.
So just take your time and give everybody the whole
Sure. Bit. So I grew up in Orange County, California, as I mentioned before. And if anyone has heard of that area, you might think of the stereotype, kind of like the Mean Girls movie, where there's cliques of super popular girls and they all have fake hair, fake nails, tons of makeup, the best clothes. That wasn't everybody in Orange County. And that wasn't everybody at my school, as most stereotypes are representative of a part, but obviously not everything. But at my school, the girls, the people who ran the school socially definitely were like that. And they would get, like for their Sweet 16, they would get a brand new car. One girl, I won't give too many specifics just because I don't want to be mean. If she doesn't want that shared, I won't reveal enough information for it to be known who she is. But one girl who was very prominent in our school, when she was 18, she got a boob job. So to me, that's not normal. But maybe it is, just no judgment, but that's just kind of the scenario.
Go ahead and judge. Go ahead.
Painting the picture. I mean, whatever. I don't know if you're old enough at that age to make that decision. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but maybe at that age, it's a little early to maybe support that. And obviously the parents are paying for it. So, whatever. But these girls, the point of this all for everybody is these girls were mean and really worked hard to exclude everyone else who weren't in their little inner circle of coolness. A lot of it was based on money. A lot of it was based on if you were a cheerleader or friends with the cheerleaders, there's, kind of this elite qualification group. And every year, the senior girls, so the girls in the senior class, they would get together, the ones who are most popular, would get together and come up with a name that they were going to print onto shirts declaring how awesome they were. So one year they were the senior babes. One year they were the senior hotties. And my year in 1999, when I graduated, they named themselves the senior princesses. So these girls got pink shirts and they had senior princesses written across with a little crown on it. And they would wear these shirts all the time and they would do it to exclude people and rub it in everyone's faces. I obviously was not a senior princess. I was a big nerd. So I was in all the AP honors classes. My idea of a fun Friday night was like quizzing my girlfriends on, I don't know, the U.S. Okay, here's an example of how nerdy I was. My best friend, shout out to Emily Hickok. She's now a lawyer in Central Northern California. She and I were so nerdy that we would get on opposite chalkboards in the classroom during like our free time, and we would race to see who could write all the presidents in order the fastest.
Wow.
That's how nerdy we were. And we just chose to do this for fun. We memorized all the capitals of all the states just for fun, and we would quiz each other and just, yeah. Out of, I forget how many people were in our graduating class. I think maybe 400, 500, 600 people or something. I was ranked 13 out of all of them with grades and stuff. So I was definitely a big nerd. I was all about school. So I was not invited to be a part of the senior princesses group by any stretch of the imagination. And they like dominated the yearbook. They always had the most photos. Like they were either in journalism or they had enough people in the journalism class that favored them. So their faces just dominated the yearbook. They were in all the school assemblies. Like they just ran the school and everyone else was just like second class citizens. So that carried on as per tradition in 1999 until one day. So Emily ran up to me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Laura, did you see what happened?" And I was like, "No, what are you talking about?" She said, "The senior princesses are all pissed. Like, look over there. They're just like shooting daggers out of their eyes at anyone who passes." And I'm like, "Well, what happened?" And she said, "Well, the girls who are the most geeky, even lower in the social hierarchy than we were. In our case, they were in band and like they did what's that called when they have like the flag and they twirl the flag?
Just flag girls.
Color guard.
Color guard. Okay.
Yeah. So in our school, color guard and band, the girls who were in those, they were like the geekiest ones. I don't know why. It's just how it was. And so they showed up that day with shirts of their own. So they had purple shirts and across it was printed Senior Queens. And so this was just a total uprising in our school. It was unprecedented for anybody to challenge the powers of the senior princesses, and let alone to make such a bold statement as to say, "You're a princess, well, we're a queen, we're above you." Yeah. It was crazy. So I loved it because no one had ever challenged them before. And the senior princesses tried to make life a living hell for the senior queens. There was a huge backlash at them. They even went to like all the principal and the administrators and tried to get the senior queens banned. They're not allowed to have shirts. They're not allowed to do this. This is our tradition. Only we can say who gets a special shirt. Some guys even, I didn't tell this story when you heard it before, but some guys even came to school a couple days later with like senior dudes, and like other people started getting in on it. So just like what ended up happening was it finally challenged this tradition. It just challenged the supremacy of these girls from being able to do that, because more people kind of had this uprising and challenging it. And I was too scared to be a senior queen. Plus, I didn't identify with that group of people anyway. Like, I wasn't friends with that group. I was too scared to be like, a senior dude. I was too scared to do my own. And actually, oh my goodness, this is just coming back to me. My friend Emily, after she heard me tell this story a couple times, she texted me and she said, do you remember the shirts that we were joking about creating but never did? And I was like, no, I don't remember. She said that we were going to do senior brains because there is life after high school. That was going to be like our tagline. We never ended up doing it. But yeah, so the lesson that I really learned from this, because I didn't participate directly, but I observed it, was we cannot allow ourselves to be defined by our exclusion from groups. So I'm not a loser because the senior princesses didn't pick me. I am who I am. I am whatever I define myself to be because of my selection, my actions.
Right.
And so I was really proud of the senior queens for stepping up and having the guts to do that, because that took a lot of bravery and they took a lot of backlash from it. And I just resolved from that experience to try my best to never be a senior princess. So never to create a group with the main purpose of really making other people feel excluded and less than. Of course, we all make groups and that's fun. That's part of human nature, but not to do it with the purpose of really rubbing it in other people's faces that they're not a part of it. And then to channel my inner senior queen and decide who I am, to choose myself, to print my own shirt, as I say it.
Right.
And the way that I do that in business now is by helping others to write their own book and declare themselves as a published author. Because we have senior princesses out there in the world, and they're often in our own heads even, that tell us we're not good enough to write a book. We're not good enough to stand on stage. We're not expert enough yet to be an author. And I say, forget all that. If you have something to say, if you have something to teach, you have something to share, you're allowed to write a book. You can choose yourself. You can print your own shirt. You can write your own book. You can create your own destiny.
Yeah. I love this. And the idea about whether it's writing a book or just becoming a speaker or something, if you have enough knowledge to be good at something, you know more than some other people.
For sure.
If it took you a little bit of work to get to where you're at with whatever it is, whether it's the job that you do or a particular talent you have for raising your kids or playing the flute, I don't know, whatever it is, you have knowledge, you have skills that other people do not have, they would like to have. And we don't, to the point you were making, we don't value ourselves enough.
Right.
We always, I think, tend to, and it seems, this is just kind of coming to me, right? It seems like it's people with some humility who tend to just not feel like they're a leader yet.
Right.
And it goes your whole life for a lot of people. But you don't need to be, and feeds into some other topics, but you don't need to be the leader of the world. Right? You don't have to feel like you got something to teach everybody. Right? Nobody has something to teach everybody. But there are people who need to hear from you. Need to hear from all of us. Right? And whether you reach one person or a million people, you're going to feel pretty good about it if you do it. So print your own damn t-shirt and just decide. And then just take a little baby step outside the comfort zone and see what happens. Absolutely. And your world can change overnight in a big way from small steps. So I think it's a great lesson, that just that whole idea of not, what you said was great too. Don't define yourself by other people's exclusion of you.
Right. Yeah. Well, and on that note, to add to it, I realized, flash forward, 20 years to just the past couple years for me, that some of the ways I held myself back in business, from writing a book before I did, from stepping on stage before I did, from starting a podcast, from all these things, I realized that in my head, I was more worried about impressing the senior princesses than I was in actually giving value to someone who could benefit. So for me, let's talk about speaking on stage. I used to be so nervous to do it, but then when I analyzed it, I realized the reason I'm nervous.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around. Bye-bye.